as parents are hopefully being reunited with students. That is the number of students that were evacuated from the school following the shooting, hundreds of them. The enrollment of this high school, Kate, is about 1,900 strong. So that is a significant student body. And this is happening in the town of Widener, which is about 19,000 people. So this is a tight-knit rural community, again, 50 miles outside of Atlanta, that tonight is dealing with the tragedy that too many communities across our country have dealt with. But in the meantime, there are still significant questions that need to be answered. While we know a gunman is in custody, we do not know their potential motive or their weapon, or if they were even a student or not. That is what we're hoping to learn at this press conference that, again, is slated for 4 o'clock. Authorities making it very clear, calling this an evil thing that will take multiple days to provide answers for. Kate?
Morgan, thank you. Tom, let me turn to you. You cover law enforcement. That's sort of your beat here at NBC News. I know you've been talking to multiple people about this. What are your sources telling you right now?
Yeah, so Morgan kind of laid out exactly the current state of facts as best as we know them. All indications are that the suspect is a teenager. We don't know their specific age at this time, and we don't have an identification on that individual as well. Know anything about their background or their past. And to Morgan's point, we've been told that there's not an initial indication as to whether they were a student there or not. You might say, well, how is it possible we don't have that information already? Sometimes, particularly when we're dealing with teenage suspects, they don't have identification, or they've taken steps to hide their identification. And so that can make it difficult because they're not perhaps an adult, or they don't have a driver's license yet, or they don't have the types of things that could help identify somebody, and they may not have any history with law enforcement, so there may not be fingerprints on file, those type of things that would initially help out. I suspect by later in the afternoon that will change. We'll know who this person is, and then obviously we're asking the questions: did they post anything online? Did they say anything? What was the background of this person, and why might have they carried out what they've done today? And that's the type of information that investigators are working on. That's what we're trying to get a handle on ourselves. And a big reason why you still see the students, and we've been flipping back and forth between live video and tape video, still at that football field, is because GBI, which is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the statewide investigative authority, has a lot of experience with big crimes, big crime scenes. They'll be the ones that'll talk to those students. They want to make sure they've identified anybody who may have seen something, heard something. We do understand there's some surveillance video at this school. That's not surprising in the year 2024. And so that might be quite helpful as well to investigators as far as determining the sequence of events and any identifying information. So yes, still a lot of questions. Hopeful, though, based on the folks we're talking to, that we'll start to get some answers on that in the next several hours.
And Tom, I think it is worth noting that this is a suspect in custody who is alive, an alleged shooter, which often doesn't happen in situations like this, right? I heard the sheriff say we're not going to say much about this person who's in custody, and asked for the press to not ask too many questions and dig in too much, because I assume they're interviewing this person right now.
You know, I heard that exact same thing, Kate, and it would lead us to believe that the individual is alive, but nobody has overtly said that to me, one way or the other. So I want to be a little bit cautious with that. Fair. But with respect to asking questions about it, we're going to always ask whatever questions we want to ask. That's our job. Whether or not law enforcement is comfortable in answering those questions, or is in a situation from a legal standpoint that they can answer those questions, that's a very different thing, and that's a very understandable reason why they, to your point, might want to hold off if they are in fact talking to a suspect that's alive.
All right, Tom, thanks. Let me turn to Morgan again. Morgan, we have seen community members, some parents, grandparents reacting, talking about getting to that school as fast as possible. Let's listen to one grandparent we spoke with earlier.
My daughter called me at work screaming that there was a shooter at Appalachie and begged me to get there as quick as possible. So just to start praying for all the kids, not just my grandson, but all the kids.
Morgan, it's so scary to hear these people talking about that moment. Talk about what we know about what's happening as far as reunification of families.
Yeah, Kate, that reunification has been ongoing since around 11:30 this morning local time. You can see a significant amount of students still waiting to be reunited with parents. I know this took place earlier in the day, but at last check, there is still that process very much going on. And I do want to provide a little context on the location here, Kate, because we have Appalachie High School that you can see on the screen. That is where this shooting took place. But in this district footprint includes multiple schools in the immediate vicinity that were impacted by this, Kate. Just a stone's throw from Appalachie, we have Heyman Morris Middle School as well as Yargo Elementary School, all of that part of the Barrow County district. Those schools, Kate, were placed on what they call soft lockdowns whenever the high school went into a hard lockdown following the reports of gunfire. That meant that those students there, those children, were sheltering in place with their teachers and staff. Parents unable to pick them up until that soft lockdown was lifted. And we've just heard from the district that 30 minutes ago that took place. So there is reunifications happening at multiple places here in this community of Winder, Georgia, following this tragic event. I should also add that the president has been briefed by Homeland Security on the shooting, and he's pledged his administration will coordinate with federal, state, and local officials as they receive more information. And we anticipate learning significantly more, Kate, whatever we hear from authorities at their 4 o'clock local time press conference. The sheriff saying that they are working hand in hand with agencies on multiple levels here. And it's incredibly telling to see some of the images as we drift over that high school. You could see armed members of law enforcement at various points at the entrances, at the exits, establishing that perimeter that we've seen before. Kate?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of this before, but every situation is different, and we continue to try to gather more details for our audience. Morgan Chesky, Tom Winter, we'll check back with you if you have anything new. Thank you so much. And again, we are following this shooting, if you're just joining us, at a high school northeast of Atlanta, Georgia. What we know right now is at least 2 people are dead, at least 4 others are hurt, although there are other media outlets reporting possibly bigger numbers. This is all a very fluid situation. We will have a live report from right outside the high school just ahead on NBC News Daily. Stay with us.
Yo, what up, y'all? Yeah, this is this out here in Georgia, man. I don't know if you guys can hear me. But yeah, this is happening in Georgia, man. This is live. What's up, Belle? What's up, Mom Seki? What up, Dion? This is happening live, man. Sad. I want you guys to check it out.
Today is supposed to be an exciting day for students and parents, but instead, we're seeing yet another horrific shooting.
It's supposed to be an exciting day.
Now, as a parent myself, I know the anxiety that comes with sending your kid out into the world every day, living with the real fear of the worst can happen. So please know that our hearts are with those families in Winder, Georgia, who are forced to face this act of senseless violence. I want to let you know that the president and the vice president have both been briefed, and his administration will continue coordinating with federal, state, and local officials as we receive more information. We're grateful for the brave first responders who are on the scene, and we stand ready to provide support as needed. As the president has said time and time again, this is not normal. This is not normal. Students and teachers deserve to know that their schools are safe. They should focus on learning, not lockdowns. While the president and vice president have taken historic action to reduce gun violence, more must be done to keep our schools and communities safe. We continue to call on Congress to do something. We need universal background checks. We need ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, require safe storage of firearms, invest in violence prevention programs, and pass a national red flag law. Enough is enough. And I cannot say this enough, which is enough is enough. We cannot allow this to happen in our communities. We cannot allow this to happen in our schools. So we have to do everything that we can to keep our children safe, to keep the people who are supposed to protect our children, who are they supposed to learn from, safe. And enough is enough. Congress needs to act. Now, turning to my colleague from NSC, who's here to discuss the latest Biden-Harris administration actions today against foreign actors attempting to covertly influence our elections and undermine confidence in our democratic institution. Admiral John Kirby will discuss the coordinated actions we are taking in addition to other foreign policy news of the day. Admiral?
Good afternoon, everybody. I think as you saw today, the Department of Justice, Department of Treasury, and the State Department took a series of coordinated actions against foreign actors associated with the Russian government who are attempting to covertly influence our elections. Specifically, all these federal agencies revealed activities directed and funded by RT, formerly known as Russia Today, to covertly spread Russian government propaganda with the aim of reducing international support for Ukraine, bolstering pro-Russian policies and interests, and influencing voters here in the U.S. And in foreign elections as well. RT is no longer just a propaganda arm of the Kremlin. It is being used to advance covert Russian influence actions. Additionally, the Russian government is laundering influence and information operations through Kremlin such as the Social Design Agency, that work extensively at the direction and control of the Russian Federation. All of this activity was designed to funnel disinformation through outlets and social media influencers that a certain number of Americans find credible. We will not stand for that. So in addition to the law enforcement actions that were announced just a little bit ago by the Attorney General, the State Department announced a new policy to restrict
families who are
visas for
part
employees
of
of
that
Kremlin-supported
Scool
media
family,
organizations
in
that are
addition
affiliated
to
with these covert
staff
activities. And they released a $10 million reward for justice for individuals associated with a Russian hacking group that's named Russian Angry Hackers Did It, or RADIT for short, as it's also known. The State Department also designated 6 RT-affiliated entities as foreign missions, a designation that now requires them to report information about their personnel and their property to the United States government. For their part, the Treasury Department is sanctioning 6 executives and officials affiliated with RT, 3 executives associated with other Kremlin-controlled organizations. And additionally, the Treasury Department is designating ANO Dialogue, a Russian government-funded Russian government-founded nonprofit that uses artificial intelligence to create and distribute online Russian disinformation for use against election campaigns. The Treasury included A&O Dialogue
people who work
subsidiary and
inside
its
the school.
executive officer in its
So a
sanctions
huge
as well.
umbrella of people
Now, Russia,
wanting
of course, is
information,
not
but a
alone
very slow
in its
trickle
desire to
of
destabilize
confirmed
our
information
democracy.
coming
As you
out
may recall,
from those in
just
charge at
last
this
month,
point.
the
Yeah,
United
we are
States
just
government
waiting for
disclosed
more word to come in. But the one thing that we can confirm that we saw as soon as we came on air, that one person was taken away and was life flighted to a local hospital away from the scene. We only saw one medical helicopter leave, so we can only confirm just that one person has been taken away at this time, as the situation has escalated a little bit more about 45 minutes outside of Atlanta, knowing that we now have state, local, and federal authorities, FBI, Atlanta, telling us they are aware of the situation and they have dispatched sources and resources here to help with this scenario. The good news, again, it's not such a hard lockdown to where your parents cannot get to the students. We see the line of cars. It sort of seems like it's thinning out here a little bit. I'm not sure if it was just the students more spread out, but it seems like that crowd has died down a little bit as well, as more parents are able to get to the students as they come in. And so here is this information, this coming in right now. Listen to this closely. This information coming. We have our Eliza Lucas on the sidelines giving us information. This one from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office. They just released this shooting at Appalachie High School. I'm going to read this press release word for word. It says authorities are currently on the scene of a school shooting at Appalachie High School on Heyman Morris Road at approximately 10:23 a.m. Officers from multiple law enforcement agencies, fire and EMS personnel were dispatched to the high school in reference to a reported active shooting. At the time of this release, one suspect is in custody. I want to repeat, one suspect is in custody. Casualties have been reported. However, details on the number or their condition is not available at this time. This is an ongoing situation. Updates will be released when available. Again, Cheryl, they report to us that this happened around 10:23 a.m. Police, fire, and rescue responded to the school. Reports of an active shooting. At the time of this release that came out to us, one suspect is in custody. Casualties have been reported. However, details on the number or their conditions is not available at this time.
It really stands out to me that casualties is plural.
Yes.
I think that stands out to me as new information because up to this point, we just knew about the helicopter, the medical helicopter, and the one person we could confirm visually seeing on a stretcher being taken to that helicopter. Now we see the word casualties in this official release from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office, and that they can't really give us specifics on how many people might be impacted in terms of any kind of injury or the level of the injury of those persons. Again, one medical helicopter is what we can confirm. We have seen all of these, and you can see them in your screen right now, so many ambulances that are parked there. Aisha and I can confirm in the time that we've been on the air with you, continuous breaking news coverage in the last 50 minutes or so, we've not seen an ambulance leave the school with lights and sirens on in the time we've been there in our perspective from SkyTracker, but we don't know, based on that new release, how many people perhaps may have been hurt in what they're describing as a reported active shooting. Again, as Aisha was reading, at 10:23 this morning, so coming up on more than 90 minutes ago.
And the fact that, Cheryl, you mentioned it, that the word casualties is plural, we are still waiting to get information on any sort of update with conditions or the number of people that could be involved here. This is just sort of heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
When, we told you guys that these updates were going to come along as you were watching with us. And that is just heartbreaking to hear that this word is even being used here. And just thinking of all the families impacted, all of the families trying to make it to their children, just not knowing what condition your child is in, where they are, and how soon you can get to them. This is absolutely heartbreaking here coming out of Barrow County.
Yeah, I'm just watching these kids, and they're kids. They're high school kids. You know, you're talking about 14 to maybe 18-year-olds, and they're just kind of meandering around the school. You've got to imagine many of them are just trying to process what's happened in the last hour and a half as they're just going about their business on a school day. Hadn't even hit the lunch hour yet, just maybe morning classes, and then this happens. That's the most significant amount of new information we've gotten in the last 90 minutes. Worth repeating from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office that they do say they have a suspect in custody. After what they say, the headline of their press release reads, "Shooting at Appalachie High School, suspect in custody." About 15 minutes ago, we saw a number of police officers jump into cars and take off at a pretty high rate of speed off the school grounds there. We were wondering if they had gotten new information and could be pursuing another lead. But again, what we can confirm is they have one suspect in custody. We don't know if they're looking for anyone else. If you're just joining us, just to reset, this is Appalachie High School in Winder, about 40 miles northeast of the city limits here in Atlanta. It's right off US Highway 29, University Parkway. It's a school of about 1,900 students. You see the Wildcats there on the football season. It is football season there, but the students on the track for a tragic reason today, being evacuated from their school after reports of shots fired, a shooting inside their school. They go into a hard lockdown protocol. They know the drill. They have practiced for this kind of a moment that you hope never happens at a school, but when it does, this is what happens. They get the kids out of the school. They get them to a safe location. As parents have been waiting on the streets outside and around the high school, parents have the green light to come. We know for some that's not as easy as it sounds. Maybe they got the call at work trying to figure out the logistics to getting to the kids, getting eyes on the kids, wrapping them up. We have seen a couple of reunions from the perspective of SkyTracker. And boy, as a mom, when you see that moment and they just put their arms around their child, it just chokes you up, because you know the worry that happens when you get those texts or the calls that something has happened at your school. And I think we are all just pausing now to think about, to send love and strength to the families involved, particularly ones who are getting the call that perhaps somebody's been hurt. Because again, from the official press release from the sheriff's office, they're talking about details on the number of casualties, plural, that have been reported. No details on the number or condition available at this time. I know that they know how much people are waiting for that information. It's just not information they're able to give. As soon as they share it, you will be the first to know.
Yeah, in the Winder community, about 18,000 people, this school with 1,900 kids. And so, you know, it is a situation where it is a small, tight-knit community, as we see the response and just how fast those, you know, parents got on the scene here to respond.
New information right now from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I'm reading it verbatim here for you, reading it together with you. GBI has responded to a shooting at Appalachie High School. We have agents on site assisting local, state, and federal law enforcement with the investigation. One suspect is in custody. We urge anyone near the area to stay clear while authorities investigate. More info to follow. Again, that is coming just a moment ago from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Just kind of recapping now, it was about 10:23 when the call came in here on the campus at Appalachie High School of reports of shots fired here. The Barrow County Sheriff's Office just sent out a press release here within the last 5 minutes, letting us know that they responded to the school on Heyman Morris Road just after 10:20 this morning. All sorts of emergency response crews with these reports of this active shooting. At the time when they sent this release, within the last 10 minutes, they told us that one suspect is in custody. Casualties, unfortunately, plural, have been reported. However, the details on the number or their conditions is not available at this time. when we were on air, we only did see one of those emergency medical vehicles emergency helicopter leave from the scene. But again, that was once our chopper got there. So not sure what took place before we even got to the scene. So it seems like it could have been more expansive before we made it there, knowing that this is being reported as possible casualties, plural.
No doubt. And just by the sheer number of law enforcement cars that we see still on the scene more than an hour and a half later, and all the ambulances still there as well, it just speaks to how quickly and how big that response was. In case you're just joining us, I do want to read the latest statement from Governor Brian Kemp. Quote, I have directed all available state resources to respond to the incident at Appalachie High School and urge all Georgians to join my family in praying for the safety of those in our classrooms, both in Barrow County and across our state.
Governor Kemp was the first to tell us that all of these resources have been dispatched. Now we see the students, it looks like they're exiting the stadium area. They're sort of lined up at the gates now. Initially, they were all pretty much in the stands there inside the stadium, but we see these students sort of bordering the gate that leads to the parking lot right outside of the football field.
Yeah. And Aisha and I have just been, as we've just been watching this unfold in real time with all of you at home, you just notice the little nuances, right? Just the body language of the law enforcement, of the students, you know, a chopper here overhead. I'm trying to lean in to read the side of that chopper. From what agency that might be. If anyone can see that more clearly and let me know, certainly tell me. But another helicopter the scene right now as we're watching this together. This is live from our view from our Sky Tracker, who's been over the scene about an hour and a half right now, giving us this perspective as this investigation unfolds. There's so many layers to this happening right now. As Aisha was saying, as students are being directed to where they can be, we have both been so impressed by the way the students are handling what is such a scary situation unfolding around them on what was just a normal Wednesday morning until this happened. A helicopter landing here on the grounds of Appalachie High School in Winder as we speak. Law enforcement still there, and it's a coordinated effort right now from local, state, and federal law enforcement, both on the scene here and as this investigation moves forward.
And so this is, again, as Cheryl mentioned, the second helicopter that we're seeing. Initially, we saw that first helicopter as soon as we came on air, and that sort of puts into perspective now that we've been told there's a possibility of multiple casualties that are here on this scene of Appalachie High School. While we haven't been given an update from the sheriff's office on what are the conditions of the people who were possibly in harm's way inside the school, we can report that another medical helicopter has landed there on the grounds. The good news here, if we can pull anything out from it, is that one suspect is in custody. So with that, it appears that the danger is over, and now we are in response mode, trying to see the conditions of the people who possibly need medical help. The time now is 12:13. Let's walk it back. That first call came in at 10:23. So we're coming up on 2 hours of this situation as parents, hearts are pounding, trying to figure out, is my child safe? That is the number one priority right now. We see one big group of students in the stadium, and it seems like they're forming a line, Cheryl, as we know they've been given the all clear to be released now to their parents.
And as you were saying, I think it's so important what you're pointing out here, Aisha, is like pulling the parts that are encouraging and maybe messaging that things are moving forward in terms of, one, the information we're getting that there is a suspect in custody. And then we've talked about at length now just what it means when there is that all clear for people to come onto campus and for these students to be able to leave campus. Now, we've been watching as this been unfolding here for an hour or more. That is a long and tedious process.
Yeah.
One, because you see in the distance on the top of your screen up there, all of the cars kind of waiting to get in to the school campus. We saw some parents just get out of the car, walk across the field. They're not going to wait to be able to drive up. They just want to go see the kids. But you see by the number of students still there on the field, this is taking some time. But we're talking about a school of 1,900 students, and then you add all the staff to that. This is a massive response on so many different levels.
And then we also want to bring you back to, and within the last 15 minutes, we saw a group
of emergency vehicles peel off from the scene and go in a different direction. So we're also trying to work to see where they were headed, if there is a different part here. You guys are watching this live with us. We're getting this information and bringing it straight to you as it comes in. We're kind of leaned over here on the scene because Chopper is trying to zoom in to give us more of a view to see what's happening there on the ground, because we still don't know what phase we're in, right? So we know the one suspect is in custody, but who's still inside the school? What's the level of the injuries here? How many casualties? So many questions still need answers, but regardless of what those answers are, this is a gut-wrenching, heart-pounding situation here. As we're talking about students, we're what, a month into the new school year already? I just looked up some stats online. 35 school shootings reported in the U.S. already here as of July in 2024. Some of these kids have been practicing how to stay safe from a school shooter since they were in kindergarten. And now their time has come to where they've had to put these things into practice. You never want to think about it, but here we are.
You know, it's interesting as parents, maybe because, you know, we grew up perhaps at the time that it wasn't as prevalent.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of breaks my heart. I remember hearing one of my kids say, basically not if but when, kind of a mentality, just sort of factually saying that, because they have been practicing since they were in kindergarten, sort of the response to whatever might happen at a school. And while you're so glad that there are procedures in place to be able to respond in the most effective and efficient and in the way to keep as many people safe, you hate the idea that it's even necessary.
We're just hearing from producers in the booth right now, feeding us this information. NBC News are reporting 2 dead and 4 injured. Again, this information coming in just now. NBC News reporting 2 dead at Appalachie High School, 4 injured. So this information coming just to us right now, because remember when the sheriff's department sent their press release, they said casualties plural, but not knowing what the conditions were or how many. So we can put a number on that, confirmed through NBC News. Cheryl.
I just have to take a deep breath with you. That is devastating, important, but tough information for our entire community and for our country, right?
We have, multiple people inside this building. You have students, you have staff members, you have, emergency personnel, coaches. This is a high school here of about 1,900 students, 2 high schools in the district. This is Appalachie. 10:23 this morning, the call goes out to the police department. Reports of shots fired here on this campus. Multiple agencies respond, spring into action, get all of these kids out of the school, hard lockdown. We just understand that 11 Alive's Molly Oak on the ground floor. She's finally made it through all of the law enforcement. Going now to Molly, going to take away from Chopper, guys. If we can keep Chopper in boxes, if possible, that would be great. As we get to Molly, we're going to try to bring that back up. Molly, what can you tell us?
Guys, I know you've been seeing the just mass amount of law enforcement that's on scene here at the high school. And I want to say the only thing that rivals the amount of law enforcement is the amount of parents we've seen trying to get as close as possible to the school. I do want to step aside so you can see, because all down this road, aside from the parents walking, we just see blue lights flashing. We were on scene when we watched that helicopter land in the middle of the parking lot. As we were waiting to come to you, I've also been talking with parents as they're making their way closer to the school. They've been telling me that their kids have been moved to the football field for safety as they wait for parent pickup. Talked with one dad. He said when he got the text, he honestly couldn't even believe it was real. He didn't want to believe it was real until his son told him, no, Dad, I'm not kidding. There's somebody shooting inside this school. So as we're working to get more details, I also just got this confirmed from the GBI that they are also responding, joining the mass amount of law enforcement here. They did confirm that there was a shooting here at Appalachie High School in Bartow County. They said they have agents here on site helping out with local, state, and federal law enforcement with the investigation. They're also telling us that one suspect is in custody. They're asking anyone in the area that doesn't absolutely need to be here to stay clear while this investigation continues. Now, I also see multiple helicopters up in the sky. I know one of those is ours for you all to give you a better sight, but we cannot express just how many law enforcement are on dozens and dozens. And we've got a Jackson County ambulance that just drove by us. You heard those sirens going. Even when my photographer and I were trying to get down here, we watched as about a dozen or so police sheriff, etc., continue to blow past us on different routes, all trying to get to the high school. So right now, this place is locked down. Again, that was after students had a hard lockdown earlier this morning after reports of a shooting. That's now been confirmed as law enforcement continues to investigate. Guys, we're going to work to find out some more details and talk with parents out here as we send it back to you in the studio.
And Molly, as you were sharing your report, which is such a helpful perspective there on the ground, we can confirm Grady Hospital, the hospital we've been talking about as being one of the level 1 trauma centers, meaning they get the most serious cases. They have the wherewithal and the expertise to handle the most serious cases. We can confirm Grady Hospital has 1 of the 4 injured, as reported by NBC News. Again, 4 injured, 2 dead. We can confirm Grady Hospital has 1 of the injured.
We just hate to report that this is a scenario here as these parents try to make it to their kids. We could even see in the background there with Molly just how long that line is of those parents trying to arrive at the scene. But we just kind of want to think and even send our prayers to these families who maybe haven't heard from their child. They can't get through. We don't know how good or bad cell service is right now. The situation has been going on, coming up on 2 hours. It is 12:21. That first call came in at 10:23 this morning of someone shooting in that school. 1 suspect is in custody, but we have confirmed through NBC News that 2 people are dead and 4 are injured at this hour. The situation has definitely escalated here as more information comes in. We've been here with you since we came on air at 11 and got our chopper here on the scene. So that's what I'm saying. We don't know what happened before Chopper got there. Clearly, this was intense. We see those students now on the football field. It seems like as the parents show up, that crowd on the football field is starting to thin out a little bit. But think about it. Beginning of the school year, football field is your favorite place.
Right. Friday Night Lights.
And now that's going to be in the bucket with this is where I went when tragedy struck.
You know? Exactly. And, I was thinking as you were talking, Aisha, just looking at all those kids on the field, now we know that 4 injured and 2 are dead, but every single person on that field and every single person who loves them is impacted by this and affected and injured in some way.
Yeah. And even if you don't know anybody in Winder, Georgia, you may not even know where Winder is. Cheryl and I are sitting here bringing you this story while our kids are in school. Your heart just goes out to this entire community because you send those babies out that door and on that bus thinking that they're going to come home. And it is just not a guarantee. We have at least 2 families who will not see their loved ones tonight, and 4 other families who may only see their loved ones in a hospital bed. The sheriff's department said they are working to confirm the extent of those injuries. We know 1 patient has been transported to Grady. One of our producers from home even told us that there is another level 1 trauma center in Northeast Georgia there in Gainesville. So the medical response is indeed at the peak of the situation. As we know, 4 people are being treated for their injuries. Sadly, tragically, 2 people are dead right now.
And we know that one of the injured has been taken to Grady Hospital. Grady confirming they've received 1 gunshot wound victim from Appalachie High School in Barrow County. We have a new statement to share from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, John Burns. He writes, "We're praying for the safety of the students, faculty, and staff at Appalachie High School and the law enforcement officers who are responding to the scene." Again, we can confirm through the governor and the FBI that local, state, and federal law enforcement are all on the scene at the high school you're looking at right now, all working together in a coordinated effort into what is now an investigation part of this response. We can confirm again, if you're just joining us, there is 1 suspect in custody. 1 suspect in custody. We have not gotten information on whether they think anyone else might be involved, but again, 1 person in custody.
And we continue to work here in the newsroom, seeing what information we can gather. We have reporters in the newsroom, our assignment managers trying to filter through all the information they can. And it's important for us to really be the eyes and ears of the community, because in the age of social media, so much information is going out. I did a little sweep through X, a sweep through TikTok, and people are, sharing the information, but we want to make sure that we bring you that information as it comes in the most accurate fashion possible. And with that, we can recount here Appalachie High School, a call went out from the school 10:23 this morning of someone shooting. There was a shots fired call. Local law enforcement responded. When they got there, they encountered this situation. In the end, we can tell you that school was put on a hard lockdown. The students were taken out to the football field as the situation was investigated. 2 people are dead, 4 people are injured. On air, we've seen at least 2 medical helicopters leave away from this scene. Grady has 1 patient they have confirmed. 4 people are injured and 2 people are dead. As we look at this view from above of all of these students, a school of 1,900 students here. We don't want to zoom in too far, but we see another person being taken away from the scene on a stretcher. Not sure the extent, but you got to keep in mind here, they're outside. Mm-hmm. It's about 75 or so degrees right now. People may be having some sort of anxiety attack. We just don't know what's happening as we see this person being loaded onto an ambulance right now. This is stressful.
Yeah.
This is heart pounding. Yeah. You don't know if your life is still in danger. You're a child and you just encountered a shooting. We don't know what these kids saw.
No doubt.
We don't know what they heard. Mm-hmm. And so we might see more medical responses just in the aftermath here.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, because I was thinking about, as we're learning new information, so are they.
Yeah.
And they're learning information about people that they know and care about. And even as it's just sinking in what's unfolded, we see another stretcher coming out. So there is that kind of initial response, and then it is like caring for all of these students, staff, on a lot of different levels. As this doesn't end today on in many ways in terms of an investigation, but what a day like this, it sticks with you, it sticks with their loved ones, and it sticks with the community.
Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger just posting on X, praying for the students and staff of Appalachie High School today and the families of the victims. I'm thankful for our first responders and law enforcement personnel who risk their lives every day protecting Georgians. Please join me in prayer for the Appalachie High School community. Again, that's coming from Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. We are getting response of prayers coming from our elected officials as they are all in the loop. Governor Brian Kemp saying that he has also dispatched an endless amount of resources here to this area, as they have also enlisted the help of the FBI here, as one suspect has been taken into custody. The latest information coming out, confirmed by NBC News, that 2 people are dead and 4 people have been injured. We know Grady Hospital here in Atlanta, a level 1 trauma center that takes the most serious of patients, has received at least 1 victim here in this case.
This is a school of 1,900 students, and we just keep going back to just how widespread this impact is for every single person inside that school and every person who knows them. But all of us here watching this together, these are the moments we go through as a community together and change as a community forever as a result. You said it a few minutes ago, Aisha, and I just, felt that kind of pit in your stomach when you said there are 2 families tonight that will not see their loved ones.
I was just about to say, Cheryl, my stomach is in knots. I mean,